Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Clubhouse Picks, brought to you by Godzilla Wins. I am your host, Jack Fredericks, editor of GodzillaWins.com, where you can get all of your sports picks and predictions on everything from the NBA to the UFC. Clubhouse Picks is your go-to podcast for PGA predictions, tournament previews, and salty picks for the veteran golf fan. I'm here with my co-host, Nate Perry, the greatest handicapping caddy west of the Rockies. Welcome, Nate.
Thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit here. We're just going to recap the Honda Classic, which was our tournament last week. Why don't you give us a little bit about the Honda Classic here, how it kind of shook out, and then we'll move on.
Oh God, the postmortem for the Honda Classic is bad. So we came on here and we had some really good analysis. We thought we had some really good analysis. I gave out a handful of players. I wrote them up on the website, GodzillaWins.com. And it was an abject disaster from a betting perspective for us. 4 of them missed the cut. My man, Eric Van Rooyen, finished dead last. Credit to Sung Kang for shooting 46 on the back nine to tie for dead last. So at least we weren't there by ourselves. We never really had anyone in contention. And, Chris Kirk played pretty well. It was a weird tournament. I mean, the leaderboard was really strange. Yes, it was a weak field, but it was just sort of a weird field. The guys that were elite, Lowry, Sung Jae, they never were really threatening. Lowry, was kind of hanging around, but it never really looked like he had a shot to win. And Chris Kirk played his butt off, won in the playoff against Eric Girard, who's now teeing it up in Puerto Rico, won himself another week because he was playing on basically no status. He was a Monday qualifier. So, weird week, tough to handicap. Good for Chris Kirk. He seems like one of the good guys out there, so happy for him.
Neither of us had Chris Kirk, but
we talked about it though. We kind of mentioned him, and then we were like, nah, not Chris Kirk.
Well, it's because he hasn't won on tour since 2017 when he ripped off 4 wins. But anyone who hasn't researched Chris Kirk or gotten to know him, you really should. I would encourage you to read. I think PGA.com has a nice article about him from a couple years ago about his journey to sobriety, which has really helped change his game around. Those wins he ripped off in 2017, he was playing the best golf of his career. That's what happens. You start playing at a high level, you're going to start gathering up some wins. And it seems as though he had some issues with substance abuse, especially alcohol. And he's very candid about those things. He's still candid about those things. One of the reasons I read that article was because that's one of the first things he thanked when he won that tournament was his sobriety. So it's really interesting to see that. He's just a very forthcoming guy. And it was still exciting, even though Girard is not a household name. He was real close.
Far from it. He was right there.
Far from it. But he was right there. I mean, 18th hole coming down, and he's a shot behind Kirk, and Kirk tries to hit the green in a pretty aggressive shot. It bounces off of the 18th at Honda is surrounded by water, so it bounces off the rocks and basically hits the Honda car in the water, which was nice product placement, I suppose. And that cost him a shot. So we have to go into a playoff. And even in the playoff, I mean, Kirk, he hit the ball pretty well. He got to the green. He had a really nice approach shot.
Yeah, I mean, all it is stuff it to a foot to win.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of gumption right there. So that was really nice to see. And I was not positive or optimistic that Girard was going to be able to win a playoff, but he was pretty close. I mean, even the par putt, the birdie putt that he had to sink on the 18th to extend the playoff, it came pretty close. He played really well. So that was fun to see. It's always fun to see those amateurs kind of play pretty well. But yeah. And we did talk about Kirk. I think he's the guy to watch, but I don't know. I mean, even at 30-1, the price really wasn't that great for a guy who hasn't won on tour in 5 years and is often not even in the conversation. So that's what you get with the Honda Classic, is guys like Kirk who have a bad price, but he ended up winning. So credit to him. He played a really nice tournament, and he played a really good Sunday, a really good Sunday.
Yeah,
not as good as Girard. But he
Girard played
really
great. Mini Tour legend. Yeah, I mean, that guy played awesome. So, good for him too.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the Puerto Rico Open, which is the second PGA Tour here. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But we want to get to the Arnold Palmer Invitational, which this week is played at Bay Hill in Florida, and it's a shortened field. So I think it's like about 152
120.
120. That's right.
Yeah.
So we got 120 guys instead of like 252. So it's a shorter field. It's also one of PGA Tour's elevated events that they're trying to do in order to compete with LIV and other stuff. So we have a packed field. This feels to me like a major, just like Waste Management kind of did, or the Riv at Genesis. Both of those felt like majors here. And we have a lot of really good golfers playing. Most of them took the week off for the Honda Classic, but they're back here at a very difficult course that we're going to see some weather issues as well this week. So Nate, why don't you start us off here, just for our audience, preview the course, tell us what we can expect, what these golfers are battling out there.
Okay, yeah. So Bay Hill has hosted this tournament for forever. It's long been on the tour schedule, and it didn't used to be this hard. I was looking at historical scores before we started the show, and it's 10 or 15 years ago, guys shot 12, 15, 16 under, which is kind of just standard. But lately, they've really cranked up the intensity of it. Like the last 3 years, the winning scores have been -4, -5, -11. Bryson hit -11. That was like when he was like doing like the weight gain thing and the power hitting thing. But other than that, it's been pretty low scoring. In the last 2 years on Sunday, the scoring average has been like a little bit north of 75 for a par 72. So it gets harder as the week goes on. It dries out. It gets firmer faster. The thing about Bay Hill is that it's pretty long. It's between 7,400, 7,500 yards, plays par 72. There's water on a lot of the holes, just like last week at the Honda. The rough is going to be thick, just like last week at the Honda. The difference is the greens are probably going to be faster. They're going to be firmer. Last year, they were so fast. They were rolling at like, they said 14. It maybe was a little bit faster. Usually sometimes when they start to get ultra slick and ultra fast, they like lie. The tour just lies.
Yeah.
And just says like, nah, I wasn't that fast.
Right.
I guess slow. The Nationals always doing that. Yeah, they were fine. So it was the greens were fast to the point the guys were complaining. They said it was too hard. So what you're getting is a really tough golf course, firm, fast greens. It's pretty long. The rough is dangerous. The water's everywhere. So this is a real test. I mean, these guys really have to bring it. You have to bring it tee to green. This is not going to be a birdie fest. It's not just ride the guy that catches a hot putter. This is like a real golf tournament that's really going to test these guys.
So a couple years ago, when you talk about how the course became a little bit more difficult, I believe what they did is they changed it from a par 70 to a par 72. The course is long. It's very long. It's Florida in February, early March. This year it's early March. So it's windy. It's very windy. And there are some guys, and we'll get into this because I got a couple nuggets for you as far as some guys who play well in the wind and some who don't.
Okay.
But some of these guys who play poorly in the wind are really going to struggle on this tournament. It also has the longest, or the second longest, Southern Hills Country Club has the longest par 3 yardage. So the par 3s play at 210, which is crazy. That's extremely long. And we've talked about that before. Even at the Honda Classic, those par 3s play pretty long. Yep. I think at the Riv, the par 3s are kind of long as well.
They were really long at Riviera. Yeah.
Yeah. So you may want to take a look if you're into this type of stuff and you really want to dig into the numbers. You might want to look at the Riv and see who played well with the par 3, because that's a very similar playing field. So, we could see that where you could pick up strokes as the par 5s, and that's just always the case. We saw that last week. We're going to see that again. You have to be able to mash the ball off the tee and hit a nice approach shot, because if you do get caught in that rough in that Bermuda, it's very difficult to punch it out in a way that you're going to be successful. And I believe also the greens are Bermuda, which I don't believe that's the case last week. I don't think that
it was the case last week, but the guys on the West Coast don't play Bermuda. Bermuda doesn't grow out west.
Right. Yeah. And it's like you said, it can be very slick. It's a tricky little grass. So there's guys who love playing in Florida and there's guys who don't. And that's just those guys who do not like to play in the wind and do not like to play in South Florida. They really struggle on this course. But the thing I love about this course is that we've got a lot of people who have played this tournament for a long time. And outside of Tiger Woods' reign, where he's won this tournament like 8 or 9 times. And then I think Every won it twice in a row back in the day. Yeah. Shout out to Matt Every. A little back to back.
TV on CBS.
Yeah, he's great. So after that, though, I mean, this is kind of a wide open course, and with this elevated event, you just have so many guys who really can compete, even with or without the wind. Before I'm going to throw you a curveball here. Actually, no, I'm not, because I don't want to spend time looking this up. I don't think you're ready. So I'll give you some time to talk about the top tier guys. But one of the things I want to do, let's talk about our big top 3 dudes, Rahm, Scheffler, and Rory. Those are guys who are around 10-1 to win the tournament. They've been playing the best golf in the world. Make no mistake about it. Rory McIlroy, even though the wins haven't been there, is one of the best golfers in the world right now. Scheffler and Rahm, of course, have been killing it. I also want us to take a look at start times on Thursday. The earlier the start time, the better conditions. Later the start time, more wind. And those have come out. So if you've been listening to these golf podcasts for a while, you have been listening to the guys say, well, we don't know the start times. We know them now, I believe. So we can talk about how they paired some of these guys. But let's talk about the top tier first, and then we'll kind of loop back around to that. So of those 3 guys, Nate, now we know, you and me, we don't like to bet guys at 10-1. It doesn't offer any value. And other than just the satisfaction of being right, it doesn't do anything. However, it's important to talk about the guys who always win the tournaments. It just is. Even though we're not going to bet them, I mean, you got to talk about these guys. So what I want you to do, of these 3, based on what we talked about with the course and whatever your framework for analysis is this week, who do you like out of Jon Rahm, Scottie Scheffler, and Rory McIlroy? Which one, if you had to take one of those top guys, who might you take?
Scottie. I think it's got to be Scottie. I mean, he's already defended 1 title this year at the Waste Management, where he won last year, he won this year. He just seems like maybe all this conversation about Rahm and Rory and blah blah dominance seems to have like gotten Scottie Scheffler a little bit fired up, because he's just playing unbelievable golf right now, and I don't think there's a reason to bet against him again. And it's twofold. Some of it's Jon Rahm has been like, he started 5 tour events, he's won 3, so that's 60% win rate. That's decent. That'll get you in the Hall of Fame pretty fast.
Yeah, pretty easily.
But he's won 5 overall worldwide in the last 5 months. But the thing about Rahm is that he's often known, and people sort of talk about this a little bit, I think, but just sort of, just from my sort of, anecdotal, like I look at the stats obviously, but anecdotally, he's never been a guy that just crushes in Florida. In these early season events, you have like West Coast killers, Rahm, Homa, Scottie plays okay on the West Coast. You get a few guys like that. And then you get guys when you move down to the Southeast that tend to do really well in Florida. Justin Thomas plays really well in Florida. A lot of the other sort of Florida-based guys tend to do better there. Colin Morikawa is another West Coast guy. So you get you get all the West Coast guys and everyone thinks they're great. And then they go to Florida and the Bermuda grass greens they don't love, maybe they don't love the wind. And it just sort of changes. The tour seems to shift when they get there and different guys start to play really well. And that's sort of like what I'm excited about this week.
I'm with you. So Jon Rahm is plus 650, 6.5 to 1.
I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, that price is just okay. So if your unit is $100, then okay, great. You got
basically only bet one guy if you bet Rahm.
Yeah.
You just all your money's on Rahm for the week, and that's it. Have fun.
Yeah. Usually for us, our units are a little bit smaller, so throwing $10 on Rahm to win 65 that doesn't even make me my money back if I've spread it around to 7-8 other guys. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now Scheffler and Rory are both 9 to 1. I like Rory in this spot a lot. One, I think that Rory plays pretty well in the wind, so I think he'll be fine out there. I also really like the fact that Rory's driving distance is number 1. The other dudes, when we're talking about Rahm and Scheffler, they're not even in the top 3 for driving distance. Now Mito Pereira. I mean, look, Mito, if Mito could close a tournament, we'd all be making money. Because
Mito's living it up now though, so he can't close any more PGA Tour events.
Yeah, that's right. Which is too bad because I really like watching him play. But really, I mean, these guys, Rahm is 6th in the world. Some of these guys are on live, but Rory's average distance off the tee is 328 yards. Rahm is 316. Scheffler, not really a bomber. I mean, he could still drive it off the tee, but he's not in the top 10 in that regard. And look, when you're talking about a course where you got to muscle it through the wind, you got to hit it long. DeChambeau crushed 2 years ago in kind of an anomaly. And one of the reasons, as you said, is because the guy was driving the ball like 1,000,000 yards because he was working out a ton. I won't make any suggestions on why he may have blown up so quickly, but his performance was incredible. Injured. Yeah, really crazy. But hey, listen, look. So I kind of like Rory just on the driving distance there because he's been just blowing the ball off the tee.
I mean, the distance is important, but like if we're, we tend to favor the sort of like more like analytical stats, right? Like a little bit deeper dive. So we look at a lot of strokes gain data, how many strokes you gain against the field, just sort of all things being equal. Scotty's number 2 off the tee right now. So I mean, Scotty's real, yeah. And strokes gained off the tee, he's he's 28th in driving distance, which isn't short. And if you combine driving distance rank and total and fairway accuracy rank, which is just like what they call like total driving, he's 3rd. So I mean, the driver's there for Scotty, and we know that he plays this course well. Just to sort of push back a little bit on the idea that Rory's the man. I mean, but Rory's also great. Like Rory's won. He's 8 for 8 making the cut here. Killer record. He's won in 2018.
Yeah, he hasn't won it. I don't believe. Did he win it?
He won in 2018.
Yeah. So that's another thing, especially a course like this where I look for guys who have won or a place in the top 10 or the top 5 or the top 10 consistently. A couple top 10 finishes for some of these guys is not that impressive, but finishing in the top 10, 8 out of the 10 times you played there is impressive. Anyone who's won this tournament, I think you really have to take a hard look at those guys. So I don't know. I like Rory. I just think at some point he's going to get one. And if I'm forced to take one of the top guys, I'm not saying Scheffler and Rahm can win every week, but so can Rory. And at some point he's going to win a tournament. He's playing incredible golf.
100%.
And it's just going to happen. And we'll see. And I think he likes Florida a little bit more than the West Coast. Those other guys. Yes. I mean, Scheffler can win anywhere. Rahm's a West Coast guy. But
Rory does like putting on Bermuda. He is good in Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's really good in Florida. So I think, I mean, again, these are guys that we like to talk about as, okay, here's our top 3 golfers. These are the best golfers in the world, but we're not going to bet any of these guys. We're just not. And we're not telling you to.
Nope.
Don't bet them. If you want to win a tournament because you're just getting killed and you just need ego boost, then go ahead, just bet all 3 of them. And you got like a 75% shot of winning a tournament, but it's just not going to do anything for you. At least that's the way we feel. It's the prices are not great. Okay, well, let's talk about the mid-range guys though. We got bets. Yeah, absolutely. And I know you got some long shots, but I'm living in the 20 to 1s, the 30 to 1s. These are my guys. These are my dudes right down here. So why don't you start us off and just run down maybe your top 2, just 2 or 3 guys that you absolutely love in the 20 to 1, 30 to 1 range, guys who've won tournaments before here, or have placed well, guys who are playing well. Who do you like in that mid-range category at the Arnold Palmer Invitational?
Well, we talked about it before the show, so you're really setting me up here. I love Tyrrell Hatton here.
I know
he's been playing good. He's gained strokes on approach. If we're looking at ball striking metrics, the fairways are pretty wide at Bay Hill, so I don't like driving accuracy. If you just keep it on planet Earth, you should be okay. But approach is really like the key statistic at Bay Hill. Like when I sort of factor this in, he's gained strokes basically in every tournament he's played since like the fall of last year when I looked him up. He's really, really good at Bay Hill. He won here in 2020. He's never missed a cut here in six tries. He was tied for fourth in his debut in 2017. He was one shot out of a playoff last year when Scotty Scheffler won. He was 4 under, Scotty was 5. So the form is just awesome for Tyrrell Hatton. He's had a couple top 10s this year already on tour. So the form is awesome for Tyrrell Hatton. Obviously, we always worry about his temperament and just sort of like falling apart. But this is the only place he's ever won on PGA Tour. So if you're gonna bet him, just take him now. Otherwise, don't worry about it. So he's my sort of first guy. He's 30-1 right now. He's the sort of first one that I had circled. And the other one is he's trendy now. Keith Mitchell. He's 45-1. I think that still qualifies as a long shot in the way that we sort of think about golf betting. Keith Mitchell's just driving the ball unbelievably right now. He's leading in the total driving stat. He's 18. He's top 20 in tee to green strokes gained. He's had a couple top 10s here before, and he's finished in the top 5 twice this month. So if you're looking at a guy that's just red hot, that seems to like Bay Hill, that drives the ball really well, Keith Mitchell's John Rahm's the hottest player on the planet, but Keith Mitchell's at least 4 or 5 in terms of just hottest player on the planet right now. And he's not getting priced like it at 45-1.
No, he's not. What's really sad is that I wish he was 70-1 because then I'd be just hammering.
That's the thing, right? Everyone's catching on to him now.
It's not so smart right now to be like, Keith Mitchell, that's my guy, because he's been playing unbelievable. He had a great tournament at the Genesis. He's really doing well in a lot of different categories. He has a beautiful swing. That's one of the things I love about Keith Mitchell. Just watching the guy. I mean, these guys all have beautiful swings, but I just love watching him off the tee. He can, it's just such a beautiful swing. There's just I can't see any fault in it. And he's really good off the tee as well. He's just been playing incredible golf and just in a very short window. And that's all it takes. And he's also been closing on Sundays. So a lot of guys like Keith,
he's been in the hunt a few times recently.
He has. A lot of guys, like we talk about Hatton's temperament. That's the issue, is that on Sunday, can he get it done? I'm not saying Keith can close against a field of heavy hitters like this, but at 45-1, you have to like the idea that the guy shoots 67, 68 on Sunday, no problem. Doesn't matter who he's playing against. And he's really feeling it right now. But
and the prop odds are good too. He's 9-1 to finish in the top 5. He's already had a couple top 5s this month. Why not one more?
Man, yeah, he's like one of my top 5 heroes right now. He's a guy. And I'll tout this at the Genesis on Saturday. He was 5-1 top 5. And I wrote that up for Godzilla Wins, told everybody to take that. And he finished in the top 5 at the Genesis. He's just been playing really well. So the issue with him is that he's 45-1, not 70-1. That's where you really want to see him. So you like Mitchell and I like
Tyrrell Hatton.
Your boy Hatton. Okay.
I do.
I'm gonna tell you, this is my guy right here. I'm riding with him so hard. I think this might be his week. Jason Day, 30-1. I think Jason Day has a real nice shot here. Number one, he's won here before. I know it was 2016, but I don't care. He plays really well in Florida. He likes Bermuda. I'm not worried about him in the wind like I am worried about someone like Morikawa, who I'll talk about in a minute. As far as the wind goes, he sort of struggles. And let me pull up okay, so the thing with Day lately, so he's played 10 tournaments this season, which extends back to 2022. But just in 2023, he finished 18th at the American. Mm-hmm. He finished 7th at the Farmers. He finished designated 5th event. Designated event. 5th at the Phoenix, designated event. Yep. 9th at the Genesis, designated event. He's missed one cut, and that was in November. He missed one in September too. But he's finished in the top 20 in all events that he's played in 2023. And he's playing some really good golf. Even at the American, Nate, where he tied for 18th, and that was a kind of a weird tournament. He shot 64 on Friday. So
yeah,
I mean, he was 20 under for that tournament.
He's just been ludicrously good with his putter. Is
He
really like,
has.
and that's sort of, he was always a good putter. And then he got injured, and different parts of your game started to fall apart. But when he was at his best, he was always a good putter. But like, I'm looking at this stat right now, and his last 4 starts this year, 2023, he's gained 4.9, 5.8, 3.7, and 4.3 strokes putting in those tournaments, which is nuts. Like, to gain over a stroke on the field every time you're just out there is wild. Every round you play. So he's been just like red hot with the putter. So maybe he's back. I mean, he never really lost his game. He just wasn't healthy for a long time.
No, he wasn't.
I don't
and when
hate Day. Yeah.
No. Again, he's one of those guys where you think, man, 30 to 1. I don't love the price, but considering he keeps finishing in the top 10, I mean, I really like him here. He's plus 600 in the top 5, plus 280 in the top 10 to finish in the top 10. I think the top 10's almost, and you can see some respect here. Like, okay, so he's 280 in the top 10. Tyrrell Hatton, who's also 30 to 1, is plus 300 in the top 10. So there's a lot. Vegas is expecting Day, I think, to play really well here. So I really like Jason Day. That's kind of my big guy here. I also really like Justin Thomas.
Like JT.
Here's my thing with JT, and I'll just say it outright. He's one of my favorite golfers. So I just feel like I feel like every week that he's playing, I think, Justin Thomas is going to win a tournament. So take that with a grain of salt. But I know he hasn't been playing particularly well, but he does play really well in Florida.
He's going back home.
He's going back home. That's a state he likes. I don't have as much issues with him when it comes to the win because of his iron play is usually so good. He has been shaky with the putter though. So I do worry about that as far as, can he close? Can he post, a crazy score on Saturday to try to move up the leaderboard? Are any of those things going to matter if when he gets on the green, he's just pushing it around, looking like not so good, here. So I also like Thomas at 28 to 1. I really like Day. I do not like, I said this before, I don't like Morikawa because he's a West Coast guy. I don't think he likes Bermuda, and I don't think he likes playing in the wind. So I know he doesn't like playing in the wind. If you punch in some of those wind models, he really drops down. I think at 20 to 1, Morikawa's a guy I'd take a pass on. Looking at these 20 to 30 to 1s, Nate, anyone else you might warn some people off of? Someone like, I don't know, Shoffley or Zalatoris, Sung JM, anyone you might say, hey, listen, just take a pass this week?
The thing is, like, most of these guys, if they're towards the top of the leaderboard, they're pretty good course fits. I guess there's some that I like more than others, but I don't know if there's any to like. I mean, Homa's just been so hot lately. Typically, he's not known as just a guy that takes his game to the Southeast in a hard way. He tends to also be sort of like a guy that tends to play his best golf in California and Arizona. Maybe Homa, maybe Morikawa. I kind of agree with you with that. The one that stands out that'll probably make me look like an idiot by the end is Finau. Just because, like, if we're just talking about outright stuff, right? The narrative is always like Finau can't win. He, it's good for a top 5, and you worry about him like if he's dueling with Scotty Scheffler at the end of this tournament, like Scotty's gonna win. So I mean, a guy like Tony Finau, he won, he reeled off a couple wins early in the season, in the fall, but at 20 to 1, that feels a little bit too steep for me. Like, it feels like he should probably be closer to like at least Justin Thomas range. So that's not like a wonderful price. That would probably be the one that I look at and I'm like, that's too low. Is Finau.
For a guy who wins, his price always sucks. I love Finau.
Always.
He's the most talented, most gifted golfer out there on the course. Everything he does looks perfect, but he can't close, and his price always sucks. It just always does. You never look at him and think, 45 to 1. Like, absolutely.
Value. Never.
He's not even, like you're saying, not even Justin Thomas 28 to 1. He's never there. And you've got guys like Matt Fitzpatrick, 35-1, Cameron Young, 40-1, Tom Kim, 45-1. Just name alone, not even good course fits.
Spieth, Matsuyama,
Spieth
major
and
winners. Yeah.
Spieth and Matsuyama. Lowry, who I want to get to in a minute, 55-1. I'm much rather take any of those guys than Finau at 20-1. If Finau wins at 20-1, then we'll all eat crow. But I just, again, how do you close? It's not a matter of, okay, well, Scheffler or Rahm is going to win. It's one of those guys is going to be in the hunt on Sunday, and you have to fend them off. If they're not leading by 3 strokes, they're coming for you. Whether it's Rory or Scheffler or Rahm, one of those guys is coming for you on Sunday, and you have to be able to match them shot for shot on Sunday to capture an outright win. And it's just the problem with Finau is he hasn't shown us that he can do that. So not that we believe he could do it, but at 20-1.
I want to be wrong with Tony. I want to be wrong.
Every week I want to be wrong.
Yeah.
Every week I want to be wrong. So I don't know. So you like Hatton and you like Keith Mitchell. I really like I lost who I like. I really like help me out here. Justin Thomas.
JT pretty hard, yeah.
Yeah, Justin Thomas and Jason Day. I really like Justin Thomas and Jason Day as well. So in a minute here, we'll get to the 40, what I would call like maybe some long shots, 40 to 50s, and then into the really long shots here. But first, we want to thank our sponsors at Ignite 45. Listen, Nate, if you're a small business owner struggling to generate leads and revenue, then this message is for you. In today's economy, a winning digital strategy is a must. Without it, your business could fall behind and lose out. Many business owners struggle with outdated websites and no real presence on Google when people are searching for their services. But don't be discouraged. Ignite 45 can fix that. They design great websites that turn visitors into paying customers and create SEO strategies that rank your business on top of search results. Ignite 45 is also the first digital agency dedicated to helping your business reach millions on your social media platform of choice. If you're ready to see real results and work with a digital partner that shares your values, then give them a call today at 720-740-1776. That's 720-740-1776, or visit www.ignite45.com/Godzilla. Use promo code Godzilla to save $100 on your digital needs. Okay, thanks Ignite 45 for that. So let's move a little bit further down the leaderboard here. Tell me who you're looking at. Just we'll call this segment long shots, but really we can talk anyone 40-1 and deeper. Last week, I think a long shot would be 100-1 and deeper, but with a tournament like this, I mean, you start getting to 40s and 50s. To me, those are long shots. That's too crowded a field with all this great talent. So just take it however you want. If you want to talk about someone who's 150-1, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll start with, so here's one that I've been staring at really hard, and I haven't pulled the trigger, but I've been thinking about it a lot, and maybe it's just because I like him. Ricky's like 80-1. Ricky Fowler.
Oh, he's always like 80-1
about
right now.
Him a lot lately because he's been playing like good, and I want to believe, right? Like I want to believe that he's back. He's 55-1 on DraftKings, so it depends on where you are. I think he's a little bit more like on some other sites, but like he's just been playing well. He's been hitting his irons really good. He's gained a ton of strokes on approach in his last 3 starts. He hasn't finished outside the top 20 in his last 3 starts. He's had a really good start to the year. So my heart says I want Ricky to do well here. My head doesn't know if he's there yet, but this feels like a moment where he could really have his coming out party. So Ricky's like sort of just like the first one, like I sort of circled like in that range where I'm like, that's a pretty good price.
Tied for 20th at the Genesis, tied for 10th at the Waste Management. Those are elevated events. Tied for 11th at Farmers. Those are 3 top 20 finishes in his last 3 starts. 54th at the American Express, but he shot 68 3 times, then 71 on Sunday. That's always the thing with Ricky that I struggle with is like, are you gonna shoot 75 on Sunday? Like, are you gonna do that thing where you shoot 67, 65, 69, and then on Sunday you shoot 73? Because if that's what you're gonna do, then then I don't want to hear from you.
Right.
So that I always kind of struggle with that. But I mean, yeah, those are 3 top 10 finishes. Well, 3 top 20 finishes and 2 right on the cusp of top 10, right outside the top 10. So he's been playing well. Why has he been playing well? I mean, I haven't really watched him that much. Is it just strokes gained? I mean, he's a great putter. Has he just found his putter?
No, his full swing. He lost his full swing. He changed coaches, and this happens a lot. He left Butch Harmon, like Tiger did, like a lot of other guys do. And then his swing got bad. His swing got kind of messed up. He was always a really good putter. He was able to lean on that putter probably enough to keep his card for a while, and to stay relevant for a while. And the putter started to go just because there's so much pressure on it that's what always happens. But he went back to Butch, and the swing looks better. Like the kind of hitches that he had developed working with another swing coach seem to have kind of gone away. And he just looks more confident. I mean, the numbers just speak for themselves. His ball striking is just so much better than it's been in a long time. That's really what it is.
I mean, if he is putting well and he's got his full swing back, he's always a great value. And it's interesting that DraftKings is wised up because he's been hovering around 80 to 1 in most of these tournaments. So they're looking at the same stuff we're looking at and thinking, hey, I mean, he could break through here. We don't want to get burned. Of course, we want them to get burned if we're going to take Ricky. So I didn't think about Ricky. And the other thing about Ricky is I haven't seen him on any of these power rankings, any of these touts. So that's interesting because you really haven't seen him very far, very much this week in terms of conversation. In the 50s kind of range, I really like Shane Lowry, 55 to 1. I know he played last week, so some may say, well, maybe he's tired, but I don't know. I mean, he didn't really play before that. He was kind of geared up for the Florida run, I think. Shane plays well in the wind, and he's a major winner. He played well last week, really was in contention until I think Sunday, but I think he had a top 5, maybe he was 6th, and he was really lurking the whole week. So I kind of like Lowry in this tournament. It's just, I really feel like you got to give an edge to one of these guys who played last week because the courses are very similar. The grass is the same. The weather conditions are going to be similar. So I kind of like Lowry here. I don't know how you feel about him. Maybe you're just over it, but I think 55 to 1.
I think you make fair points. I mean, I guess the thing that I can't get over, and the reason I don't love him, is he's never been very good at this golf course. He's missed every cut he's ever played here. He's played this tournament 4 times. He's missed a cut every time. You can just say,
I must have missed that analysis. So that's pretty, you make a compelling point there.
I mean, so, some of it you can say like, maybe the ball striking just wasn't there. Maybe, he was still kind of warming up to the season. He's typically a guy that starts a little bit later in the season. Some of the other guys, he doesn't tend to play many West Coast events. But, the counter argument is he's a great win player. And he tends to play his best golf on sort of tough golf courses where single digits under par is going to win. That looks like it will probably be the case this week with wind in the forecast. I'm sure that course is just going to be a brute by Sunday. So if you're buying the tough golf course win narrative, Lowry's great. If you're like looking at a little bit more holistically how he's played this tournament, he's never really played particularly well here. So what you're gambling on is, this is the first time he's ever played well here.
Yeah. That's a fair point. Now I don't like him as much. I mean, you got to make a cut. I'm not saying you got to win a tournament, but you got to, I mean, you're not even getting enough practice if you can't survive until Saturday. Like, how much of the course have you even played if you're catching the early flight home? So fair point there. Maybe I don't like him as much. I was pretty fired up a minute ago. Who else do you like? I got one more that's it's a really stupid analysis, but I kind of like him. So, who else
sort of, if we're still just doing mid-range guys, the one that's kind of intriguing to me is Fleetwood a little bit. He's like another kind of blast from the past. I feel like that's all I'm doing now is like, oh, remember that guy that you really liked in 2017 or 2018 that you haven't heard from in a while? Like that's who we're talking about. Jason Day, Ricky Fowler, Tommy Fleetwood. It's a similar narrative to Shane Lowry. Fleetwood tends to play his best golf on courses that aren't birdie fest because he is a pretty weak putter. He tends to play his best golf on courses that favor ball striking and approach play, which are his strengths. And he plays really well in the wind, and he actually has a good history at Bay Hill. He's finished in the top 10 here 3 times, 2017, 19, and 21. So it's clear that he likes the course. Tommy Fleetwood has never won in America. However, it seems like this would be the type of event that would suit him well.
Why?
Approach play. It's really just the iron game. He gains a lot of strokes in the wind. And I think that's probably going to be important. It looks like Thursday might be sort of like normal, but it looks like Friday is going to be really, really bad in terms of wind. So you want a guy that's comfortable playing in those conditions. He's really good at flighting the ball a little bit lower. 75-1. You could do a lot worse than Tommy Fleetwood this week, I think.
You're probably right. We are going blast from the past. We're talking about Jason Day and Tommy Fleetwood like it's Trump's first term. Really some blast for the past, guys. But I don't know. I like these guys. I mean, yeah, this is a difficult tournament. So you want some dudes who have a little bit of maturity, because it's just, unless you catch fire, it's really hard to win here.
It's a really tough test.
I got someone that I'm in love with at 90-1.
Lay it on me.
Tom Hoge. Let me tell you why. Listen, Tom Hoge, this is just an incredible bet. I couldn't tout this more. Tom Hoage's going to be lurking all week. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you right now. This is why. This is why Tom Hoage's going to do well here. Okay, this is I'm stretching here. This is a real stretch. Okay, I got you. Okay, so one of the tools I was looking at is the course fit tool. And one of the highest course fits for Bay Hill is the PGA West, basically, which is the American Express tournament right now, I believe. I think. Mm-hmm. And in 2022, Hoge he was runner-up in PGA West out there on the West Coast.
They just play that golf course one time in 4 days.
Well, I told you it was thin, but I'm looking for an angle here.
Keep going.
So that's part of it. Okay, here's my other angle, which you kind of put a hole in this theory as well. So let's look at his tee time, because it's going to be more windy this week. And I'm pretty sure Hoge is teeing off at 7:55 in the morning. So, early start time paired up with Harris English. So maybe get some tips from Harris. We love Harris. Anytime Harris English on TV, I'm watching it. That guy's going to win a tournament one day. So yeah, Hoge, okay. So they played once in that tournament in the American Express, but I think, I just feel like I think he did pretty well there. I'm all in on Hoge here. Some pretty thin analysis, but I actually do think he's going to play pretty well this week. And he's been kind of, I don't know, he's been lurking.
To poke a hole in it, he's 118th in strokes gained off the tee. Just to sort of just be the rain on your Hoge parade here. But I mean, like, he's been awesome with his irons. He's second in strokes gained approach. So, I mean, that's probably a more important stat than off the tee. I mean, they're both sort of correlated sometimes, but I mean, live your truth, man. Love Hoge.
Hey, look, he finished third at the Century. Okay. Mm-hmm. What's that? That's in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
He shot a 60
champions.
Yeah. Shot a 64 on Sunday. That was just 2 short months ago. He missed the cut at Phoenix, but he finished 14th at Genesis. That's a loaded field. I don't know. And Genesis is also not a bad comp for this course. I heard some other guys talking about TPC Boston as a good comp. I don't know how true that is, but the Riv is still, I mean, it can be windy up there at the Riv. The grass is different, but I kind of like we were talking about, long par threes. So I'm living my Hoagie truth here. I'm touting him. I don't have a lot of great analysis here. We talk a lot about the framework for analysis. My framework for analysis is that I think Hoagie's gonna really play well. That's my analysis.
I love that. Yeah.
So
Peer reviewed.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put our stamp of approval on that one. So Hoagie's one of my long shots there. What do you think? Who do you have? We're going 100 to 1, 90 to 1. Some of these long shots. I know you got a couple. Take it away.
All right. So I got my gut. So do a little history lesson here. For like a lot of the 2021 season and 2020 and the Corn Ferry, I love Davis Riley. He's a Mississippi guy. He's from Hattiesburg.
Yes, he is. Love Davis Riley.
I love Davis Riley. He's 250 to 1. And Davis Riley will win a PGA Tour event soon. Towards the end of last season, he started becoming sort of like the trendy guy for a lot of people. His odds started drifting into like that 50 to 60 to 1 range where I didn't want to bet him anymore. And he kind of fell off my radar a little bit. And then I was looking and I was like, whew, Davis Riley, we're back. So I love him at 250 to 1. He's a sort of like first one. He played okay at the Honda. He was tied for 29th, which is the best thing he's done. But he's another one of those guys that seems to play better when he moves to sort of the Southeast. He doesn't seem as comfortable on the West Coast, being that he's, born and raised in Mississippi. So if we're looking at Riley and we're thinking the guy's an awesome ball striker, usually it's the putter that holds him back. You don't need to be an elite putter to win here. What you do need is awesome ball striking. Then we got to think hard about someone like Davis Riley potentially being that guy. So he's my sort of like one that I have circled. And I'm like, I love this bet. His stats don't really bear out this year. If we're just full transparency, his stats suck this year. He's been bad. But I've watched Davis Riley a lot, and I know that those stats are probably more outlier than sort of indicative of future success. So that's my first one.
Who's your second? We're going to circle back to Davis Riley. I'm trying to find you some more. I'm trying to find you some more evidence here, but I'm coming up short.
All right. So we'll just keep going on this. Lucas Herbert is a guy that I also kind of like. He's 180 to 1. This is mostly just a strokes gained off the tee play. His iron game is not good. It's not good. He gains negative on the approach to the green, but he's pretty solid off the tee and he's a really good putter. So if you're when you're digging this far down, when you're just looking at guys that are triple digit odds, 100, 200, 300 to 1, you're sometimes just going to have to eat deficiencies in their game and hope that maybe they're just okay. Lucas Herbert's a guy that I'm willing to do that with at 180 to 1, just because he's so strong off the tee and he's such a good putter that it just feels like this is the type of tournament that he would be suited for. The greens are pretty big at Bay Hill. So being a little bit imprecise with your irons isn't horrible here. It's not going to just totally crush you. So he's a guy that I kind of like as well.
So to circle back to Davis Riley, I actually found another golfer I kind of like, because I couldn't find I couldn't find what I was looking for Riley, but now I feel pretty confident in my boy Sepp Straka. So here's what I was thinking. Okay, Davis Riley, Mississippi guy. That means he's played at Annandale in Madison, Mississippi quite a bit. Annandale happens to be the best course comp for Bay Hill, just as far as what the two courses offer. But it's not a course that these guys play that often, unless they're playing in the amateur or some other tournaments or tours. So, Sepp we liked last week because we talked about him last week because he won the Honda 2 weeks, or he won the Honda last year. Sorry. Yeah. He tied for 5th this year. So Sepp played really well again last week. That's a good comp. Tied for 45th at the Genesis, tied for 21st at Century. He tied for 10th at Hero. He's been playing pretty well. So here's a little nugget for you. I have like so many tabs open. So last year at the 2022 Sanderson Farms Championship, okay, Sepp finished runners up. That's played, I believe that's played. Well, no, now it's played in Country Club of Jackson. See, I got so close to good analysis, but it's the wrong course. They changed that course from Annandale to Country Club. I believe those are two different courses. Now we're getting into the weeds, Mississippi golf. Nobody wants to hear this. Listen, Sepp Straka is like 200 to 1, and he finished 5th last week. So you could do worse than $10 on Sepp. And Davis Riley didn't play that well at the last year in Jackson. So that was my first goal was like, oh, maybe I could, maybe Davis Riley like won that tournament in Mississippi, but he finished 10th. So forget it.
Yeah. So those are two that I like. I mean, Davis gained strokes off the tee and approach last week, so it seems like the game's kind of coming into form. So based on his sort of like historically how he is, I sort of like that play. So just to circle back once again on Davis Riley, everybody get on Davis Riley at 250 to 1 on DraftKings.com.
I mean, 250 to 1. If you're giving out 250 to 1 guys, then you got to love them. You know, we took Malnati a couple weeks ago, and Malnati almost got us a winner at, I think that was 200 to 1. So and he played well. Yeah, he played well a couple weeks ago again. Yeah, at Pebble Beach, he was 200 to 1. He almost won that tournament. So yeah, Davis Riley, I mean, Mississippi guy, he can play really well. So look, we got about 10 minutes left here. Let's go to Puerto Rico. Unless you have any closing thoughts on Arnold Palmer. I mean, one thing I'll say just in closing this, and because we have 2 tournaments, we're not going to do our top 5, top 10 guys or any exotic plays. We'll just go straight to Puerto Rico. We're not going to see Tiger this week. Tiger, we'd mentioned this. He owns this course, absolutely dominates it. He's won here 8 times. So it's a sign of the times that are changing, but wish the guy was playing this week. He'd be a lot of fun. You have any closing thoughts on Bay Hill, the Arnold Palmer Invitational before we move on?
Not really. Just, broadly for people handicapping this, if you're just looking for some sort of way in which to view it, just be thinking really hard about ball striking stats. A lot of other courses, guys can scramble well, guys, can sort of putt their way out of problems. This isn't one of those courses. So just be sure that you're looking and really not ignoring, their sort of long game deficiencies. They have to be, at least decent off the tee, and they have to be really good at their irons to win here. That's just the bottom line. So when you're sort of forming your own card, be thinking hard about those stats.
Top 3 guys on your card right now.
It's ugly, man. Hatton, Mitchell, and then probably Ricky's going to make his way on there. He hasn't yet, but the more I talk about it, the more I'm sort of selling myself on Ricky. Yeah.
For me, I'm gonna take Day and Thomas. Those are my big 2. And then now I talk myself into Straka. So 200 to 1. Yeah. Take a little flyer in Straka. And that's what we want to do here on Clubhouse Picks. We're not here to give you 25 guys. Our card might be 5, 6, 7, but we're going to talk about a lot of guys in this podcast, but we're not going to spend all your time telling you bet these 25 dudes. That's just reckless. And you need to have some sort of framework for analysis, some sort of way that you're looking at this. So Nate's looking at the ball striking here as a way into getting an edge in this tournament. So with that, let's move over to the Puerto Rico Open, which is another PGA tournament.
Puerto Rico Open. Yeah.
Give our listeners a little preview of the Puerto Rico Open, and then who you like, and we'll end the podcast there.
Yeah. So Puerto Rico Open is fun. It's going to be at least as windy as Bay Hill, probably. Puerto Rico is like the windiest place I've ever been in my entire life when I went there. And Grand Reserve Country Club, or Grand Reserve Golf Course, it's long. It's 7,500 yards. It's long by almost any standard. It's relatively flat. Really, the only defense at somewhere like Grand Reserve is just the wind. But these guys still tend to score pretty well there. 20 to 1 last year when Ryan Brem won. So, if the only defense is wind and the course is this long, really it's just bomber's paradise. You're just looking for guys that just bang off the tee. That's typically what wins here. I wrote about it a little bit on the website, GodzillaWins.com, when I previewed this. But when you're looking at this golf tournament, the field is such because it's sort of an alternate week event, the highest ranked player in the world playing in Puerto Rico is Eric Van Rooyen, who finished dead last week at the Honda. He's 120th in the world. So you're looking at like, you're going pretty far down the list in terms of like really, truly like awesome tour level golfers when you get to Puerto Rico. So you get a combination of rookies, guys that are trying to sort of get some sort of status on a sponsor exemption, Corn Ferry guys with a little bit of status on the PGA Tour, and then washed old guys that are playing on like past champion eligibility type stuff, medical exemptions, that sort of thing. Don't bet the old guys this week. Don't bet the washed old guys. Bet the young guys that bang. This course is just, it's not something that's going to be gotten. Steve Stricker was briefly in the field here.
Love that.
At like 56, I think he is.
Try to take a little vacation to Puerto Rico.
Steve Stricker withdrew and gave his spot to someone else, obviously. But like he was going to be pretty low down the odds board, and there's just not a way that he wins on this golf course against these guys. So thank God we don't have to talk about him any more than this. So guys that I'm looking for, and these aren't like sexy. We just went on and on about like, well, we only bet, mid-tier long shot guys. But the guy that I kind of like is Akshay Bhatia. He was so highly touted as an amateur. Everyone thought he was the next big thing. The swing is gorgeous. He pounds the golf ball off the tee. His iron game is elite. His iron game is good even on tour. In his limited starts, he's 10th in strokes gained approach to the green. The problem is the man is just an unmitigated disaster once he gets inside 40 yards. I mean, 196 in strokes gained around the green, 200th in putting. He's throwing away almost a shot and a half just on those two metrics per round against an average player on the PGA Tour. So there are always going to be weaknesses in these fields, right? So what you're looking for is like, no guy is going to roll into the Puerto Rico Open with like elite stats across the board. He'd be playing at Bay Hill. He'd be playing the Arnold Palmer. But Akshay Bhatia is such a good ball striker that I'm willing to ride him even at sort of deflated odds of 25-1. Just because I think that, all these guys have weaknesses. All these guys aren't good at something. I'd rather have the guy that's a truly pretty elite ball striker. And because Grand Reserve is pretty wide fairways, pretty generous fairways, I tend to sort of favor him, even though accuracy isn't his strongest point. He just hits so many greens in regulations. He's going to give himself so many chances that he feels like a guy that I have to bet.
25-1 is an 8-1. I like a lot of guys in the 20 to 30 range for most tournaments. In a tournament like this, where you've got a lot of guys who are either washed up or amateurs, dudes who are really trying to prove themselves on the tour, rookies, then you're not going to find a lot of value at 90-1. Those guys aren't ready. Right. They're not ready to win a tournament. Bhatia definitely is, so I can see that. Anyone else you like?
I mean, you're really dragging here, like the bottom of the. Like, I'm not going to bet on Eric Van Rooyen. He did me too dirty last week
because he burned you last week.
He just burned me, just scorched me, and he's like 28-1 this week, and it's like
sat here on this podcast, and you touted Eric Van Rooyen, and he shot like 14 over at the Honda in a pretty weak field.
He sure did. I mean, I guess. I mean, you're really stretching on some of these. If I'm just looking at just like guys that just bomb it and maybe their game kind of comes around. Brandon Harkins, he gains a stroke off the tee. He's 40-1. He's gotten bet down quite a bit at a lot of places. He seems to be catching quite a bit of trendy money. And I suspect the reason is just because his numbers off the tee are incredible. Everything else about his game, especially his iron game, is trash. So they're so bad that it feels like maybe they're not real. Like that's just like a weird aberration, and he hasn't played that much this year. So Brandon Harkins is another guy, just based on the sort of off the tee and putting stats. He seems, like a decent fit for this course. But I mean, after that, we're really struggling to find relevant guys. I mean, these aren't going to be guys that people have heard of. I mean, nobody's talking about Brent Grant except for his mom, probably, before this golf tournament.
His mom probably likes Bhatia.
Probably. Smart money's on Bhatia, even for his mom.
Yeah. Maybe we can try to get Grant on the podcast.
Yeah, we get
That'd be kind of
on
fun.
there. He's 60-1. Bet Brent Grant.
Yeah, there you go. Look, Puerto Rico Open. We love golf. We're all sick here when it comes to our golf addiction. But when you're looking at an elevated event like the Arnold Palmer API, when you're looking at something like API versus Puerto Rico, don't spend a lot of time looking at Puerto Rico, but do go to GodzillaWins.com because we're probably one of the only sites that has a real deep analysis of the Puerto Rico Open. So if you are interested in that tournament, interested in some of those guys, go to GodzillaWins.com. Look for dispatches from behind the bar, Nate's column, and you'll see the Puerto Rico Open preview there. He's also going to get his picks up for both API and Puerto Rico by tomorrow. Nate, I want to thank you for joining us on this edition of Clubhouse Picks. Thank you for listening to Clubhouse Picks, everyone out there. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Godzilla Wins. You can also download on iHeartRadio, Apple Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to rate and review the show, please. That really helps our ranking. So if you like the show, give us a little like, give us a follow, rate us. If you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment, like, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. We're having a lot of fun doing this, and we got a lot more picks in the future coming to you. We will see you next week, Nate and I, for the Players Championship. Happy golfing, everybody.